Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis hit third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Oakland Athletics in the final game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the A's, left-hander Hogan Harris, and for the Padres, right-hander Michael King. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 1:10 on an absolutely beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in America's finest city. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. I go one-on-one with A's closer and flamethrower Mason Miller. Plus, in a little bit, we check in with Tony Gwynn Jr. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres enter with a record of 36-35. Padres split a 4-game series with the Diamondbacks to begin this homestand. They now go for a 3-game sweep of the A's. It's already the Padres' first winning homestand of the season, and the Padres looking for their first series sweep of 3 or 4 games this year. Padres have won 4 of their last 5 after losing 5 in a row. Meanwhile, the A's are 26-43 entering today. After last night, Oakland has now lost 6 consecutive series. Before we turn our full attention to today's game, let's take a look back at last night's walk-off win.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
The Padres trailed 1-0 going to the bottom half of the 5th inning after Randy Vasquez went 5 solid innings in his start. Ha-Sung Kim hit a leadoff single. He found himself on second base with 2 men away. Luis Arise at the plate.
Arise 1 out of 2 with a single in his last at-bat. Pitch here is swung on, grounded sharply towards first. Over to the line. Soderstrom's got it. Late flip to the pitcher, covering, not in time. Kim on his way home. The throw is high, and the game is tied. Sears was late going to cover first base, and it cost him. 1-1 here in the bottom of the 5th.
Completely had a brain fart there.
Fernando Tatis Jr. then doubled off the left center field fence. Arise was held at third. There were 2 runners in scoring position for Jurickson Profar.
First pitch coming. Jurickson swings. It's a ground ball. Diving attempt by Geloff. Goes off his glove into right. Arise has scored. Tatis is right behind him. A 2-run single for Profar, and the Padres lead for the first time tonight. It's 3-1.
Padres still had that 3-1 lead heading to the 8th inning. Enyel De Los Santos entered. He allowed a 1-out single to Miguel Andujar. Tyler Soderstrom was next.
Now trying to play from behind. 1-2, hit in the air, center field, straight away and deep. Merrill's back at the wall. He looks. It's going to go into the Padre bullpen. Soderstrom hits his second home run in as many nights. This one a 2-run shot to tie it. 3-3 in the 8th.
We were still tied at 3-3 going to the bottom half of the 9th inning. That's when Kyle Higashioka had his moment in the brown and gold.
2-2 from Alexander on the way. Hit in the air. Deep down the left field line. Towards the corner. Gonna go! Higashioka has homered in each of his last 3 starts. This one a walk-off. And the Padres survive it 4-3 against the A's. They'll go for the sweep tomorrow afternoon.
What a win for the Padres. What a moment for Kyle Higashioka. The Padres beat the A's 4-3, and now they go for a 3-game sweep on this Wednesday afternoon here in downtown San Diego. As we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10 here at Petco Park, let's go inside the Padres radio booth.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
We go down the way here at Petco Park. We're joined by Tony Gwynn Jr. as we get ready for today's game, this series finale between the Padres and the A's. And Tony, before we focus on today's matchup, let's revisit the ending to last night's game. Kyle Higashioka, quite the moment, the walk-off home run. A veteran catcher who has done a really nice job as of late, Tony. The power has really come for him. What do you feel like Kyle Higashioka has brought to this team and this clubhouse in the first couple of months?
I think he's brought stability along with Camposano. They've kind of been able to do it as a tandem, and I think for both of them, they've come out of a rut offensively at the same time. Higashioka's done it in a bigger way with the homers he's hit in his homestand, but it's nice to see guys who work as hard as those two do, and start to be rewarded. Kyle's with the big walk-off yesterday, as he said, you don't get to have those moments very often, but
yeah.
So you try to soak them in when you can.
Yeah, really nice moment for Kyle Higashioka. Really nice post-game interview as well after the game. Let's talk a little bit about Manny Machado back in the lineup here today, because I was looking at Manny's numbers, Tony, before today's game. If you look at the 21-game span before and after the hip flexor injury, Manny's hitting .347 in that span. 7 doubles, only 1 home run, but he is hitting for average. When you look at the bigger picture of what Manny's done the last 3 to 4 weeks, what stands out to you about what he's done offensively?
I mean, it's just kind of who he's been. I mean, yeah. There's things that are certainties in our life, and Manny finishing around 270 with 30 and 100 is about as normal as taxes are. And so for Manny, him not having the power in that span doesn't bother me. In the same way, it didn't bother me that Toddy didn't have the power in the beginning of his streak before we've started to see it kind of take off here as of late. So those things will definitely happen at some point, and it's just good to see those guys swinging the bat as well as they have here in recent weeks.
Tony, let's talk about tonight's starting pitching matchup. Should say today's starting pitching matchup. The sun is out, bright blue skies here in downtown San Diego. Michael King on the mound for the Padres here today. He's been really solid as of late, and it seems like one of the reasons, Tony, is that he's keeping opposing hitters in the yard. He's really shored up some of the home run issues that plagued him early in the season. Is Michael King, to you, doing anything differently these last handful of starts to prevent some of these home runs?
He's limiting the mistakes up in the zone. He didn't have his best command last start, but his command were issues outside the zone, which, they hurt you in terms of walks, but they don't hurt you in terms of the long ball. I think at times earlier in the year, his command was issues in the zone and not being able to put it, and that's a dangerous place to be. And I think the difference is when he's been in this hitting zone, it's been down. It's been a lot tougher to get to those pitches in terms of getting him in the air, and hopefully he can continue that kind of pace he's been on.
On the other side of this pitching matchup for Oakland, left-hander Hogan Harris, a young lefty, not a ton of major league experience. He's been pretty good, though, in a small sample size this year. And much like I talked to you about with the right-hander Joey Estes on Monday, Tony, Harris is a guy who throws a lot of fastballs. He is more than 60% fastball. So if you're the Padres lineup today against the lefty who's been pretty good, throws a lot of fastballs, what do you think the approach is here today against Harris, a guy they haven't seen?
I think you know what I'm going to say here. That is the approach doesn't change for the Padres, and I'll continue to say it. There's a reason why it doesn't change. They're number one in hitting. They're in the top 5 in runs scored. Those aren't things you want to run away from. I think what we've seen in this series is they'll be a little more aggressive in spots where they can be, and you started to see the slug go up because of that. So I would say the approach is going to be the same. You may see this lineup in certain spots take a shot at of trying to slug, but I think what's given this team so much success is their approach to stay in the middle of the field, hit the ball on the line, and kind of let the chips fall where they may.
All right, very good insight as always, Tony. Long flight coming up to New York after this one. What's on tap for the flight? Movies, TV shows, music, what do you got?
Probably an adult beverage, some sleep, maybe a movie too.
All right. Sounds like a good time to me. So, Tony, enjoy the flight. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 1 p.m. as the Padres go for their first sweep of the season. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right, Sam, take care.
All right, that is Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us here on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10, a little Wednesday matinee on what is a beautiful day here in America's finest city. Bright blue skies. There is really not a cloud I can see right now at Petco Park, and a nice break from the June gloom. It's been overcast here the last handful of days, so beautiful day here in San Diego. Should be a lot of fun. Right-hander Michael King on the mound for the Padres. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, plus much, much more to come as we get ready for the series finale. First pitch coming up at 1:10 on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside the Western Metal Building here at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10 as the Padres take on the Oakland Athletics in the final game of this three-game series. Padres going for a series sweep with right-hander Michael King on the mound. Let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Day game after a night game, so no pregame media availability today for Mike Shildt, but obviously the Padres with a thrilling 4-3 win over Oakland last night. Kyle Higashioka, the walk-off home run. Here was what Mike Shildt had to say after the game last night.
Mike, Randy seems to continue to grow and get more and more comfortable out there each time. How much are you looking forward to seeing the next step in his growth today?
Yeah, really excited. I mean, he's done, to your point, the growth. I love that term. He's growing from his experiences, getting better as we go, and looking forward to seeing him compete tonight.
Speaking of growth, Jackson Merrill, what have you seen both on the...
All right, back here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as the Padres get ready to take on the Oakland Athletics. All right, we'll get the right Mike Shildt audio queued up here in just a moment as, sometimes you get files mixed up. So, I can make a mistake here or there, okay? I'm not perfect. So while we get everything ready on the Mike Shildt front, let's take a quick look at who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with a look at the hot category. Fernando Tatis Jr. in the midst of a 17-game hitting streak, the longest active streak in the major leagues and the longest of Fernando's career. Tatis is batting .400 with 5 home runs, 9 RBIs during a 17-game span, an .1133 OPS. In that 17-game hitting streak, he has been absolutely terrific as of late. Fernando joining Adrian Gonzalez as the only Padre to hit safely in 17 consecutive games since the year 2000. Gonzalez did it twice in 2006. The Padres have had 4 players with 18-game hitting streaks in Padres history. Tony Gwynn did it twice, so Fernando could become the 5th player in Padres history to put together an 18-game hitting streak with a base hit here today. We'll see if he can do it. Manny Machado, we mentioned him in the opening segment with Tony. Before and after his injury, you look at the 21-game span, Manny is hitting .347 in that span, 7 doubles, just 1 home run, but he is hitting for average, .347 in a 21-game span. You'll take that. Who's hot number 3? Jake Cronenworth, 8 for 23 with a couple of home runs in 5 games on this homestand, and we've seen the A's Tyler Soderstrom do really well so far in this series. 2 home runs in this series, batting .353 in his last 6 games. In the not category, Donovan Solano snapped an 0 for 12 skid yesterday, but he's still batting just .138 in the last 9 games. He hit .404 for the Padres in his first 17 games. And we take a look at the not category for the A's offense. They've scored only 16 runs in the last 9 games. That's 1.8 runs per game. The A's are just 4 for 52 with runners in scoring position in their last 9 games, all singles. So we talked about it yesterday. We'll talk about it a little bit more coming up. Bottom line, this A's offense, they don't score a lot, and when they score, it's almost not always on the home run, but a lot of the time on the home run. They do not string hits together the way the Padres do. That's a look at who's hot, who's not as we get ready for this series finale in downtown San Diego. All right, when we come back on the Padres Radio Network, we have a lot to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, I promise this time. I also go on a one-on-one with A's closer Mason Miller. You're not going to want to miss this conversation with Mason Miller. Not only has he been a great closer in the major leagues this year, he's also really turned a lot of heads with his velocity. He's throwing harder than anybody else in baseball right now. But with Miller, that is really just the start of the story. He was a guy that was with a Division III college program. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes during college, and it really transformed his life and his career. He's got a fascinating story, and he's been one of the most electric arms in baseball this year. So you're not going to want to miss that conversation with Mason Miller. Our keys to the game, much, much more to come as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 1:10. Our pregame coverage continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as the Padres take on the Oakland A's in the first game of this three-game series. First game, how about the final game of this three-game series? Padres going for a series sweep against the A's here today, also trying to make it a 5-2 homestand. I'm thinking it's the first game of the series. We also had the false start on Mike Shildt's audio in our last segment, so we're going to regroup here. Let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Day game after a night game, so no pregame media availability for Mike Shildt today, but obviously the Padres with a thrilling 4-3 win over the A's last night. Kyle Higashioka, the walk-off home run. Here was some of what Mike Shildt had to say after last night's win.
Big moment, Petco. It was fun. You guys fought their tails off, really played a good, clean baseball game. Good baseball game all the way around, but always good to leave the faithful Friar walking home and leaving Petco happy.
14th comeback victory so far this season for you guys. You get the sense that these guys understand that they're never out no matter what's going on. You proved it again tonight.
Yeah, we prove it. That's just our identity. It's who we are. The guys not only believe in it, but execute it. So, another tribute to the club for fighting their tails off.
As far as Vasquez goes, a lot of traffic, but he worked out of it. Sort of one of those classic made the pitches when he needed to.
Yeah, nobody's going to know the reference of Frogger maybe, but he dodged traffic all night. Just kept leaving him out there. After the first pitch of the game, he was really, really good, and could have maybe sent him back out, but really as much traffic as he had and as hard as he had to work to get out of it, he had more than done his part to earn the opportunity to get that win. But did a nice job, really nice job.
For a guy like Higashioka, who I think earlier this season you've kind of hit for him in some of those spots, but he's been hitting pretty well lately, and obviously he kind of earned that at bat there in the ninth inning. For him to come through like that, what does that say about the path he's been on at the plate? Yeah,
he's more than earned his at bat. Good for him. He's done a nice job for us in both phases, and he's got some pop. He's shown that more recently. He's kidded. He'll say this to you, maybe not if you ask him, but he's finally straightened out some balls. He's led the league in foul homers maybe, and the last week or so he's trying to straighten it out. Made a little bit of adjustment with his swing that, again, he can relate to, that we talked about the other day with him. But clearly a huge swing for him and for us. That's a big win. That's a nice ball game. That's a good win all the way around.
Certainly was a nice win for the Padres yesterday. Kyle Higashioka, the walk-off home run as the Padres won it 4-3. They've won the first two games of this series. They go for a series sweep here today. Jurickson Profar came out of last night's game after he went down with an apparent knee injury. He grabbed his left knee as he went to the ground after a swing. Let's get the latest on Jurickson Profar.
Who's in, who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Profar not in the lineup here today for the Padres, but let's read what AJ Cassavell, Padres beat reporter for MLB.com, had to tweet earlier this morning. He caught up with Jurickson inside the Padres clubhouse earlier today. AJ tweeting that Profar says he's been dealing with patellar tendonitis in his left knee for years. Some days it's fine, some days it's bad. Yesterday was just one of those bad days, and it wasn't worth playing through. He's down today and gets an off day tomorrow. So as we alluded to last night, it sounded like not terrible news on the status of Jurickson Profar. We heard about the patellar tendonitis after the game. Didn't sound like the Padres were all that concerned. Does not seem right now, based on what Mike Shildt said, based on what Jurickson Profar said, that it is anything overly serious. And this is something, the patellar tendonitis, that Jurickson's dealt with, apparently, according to him, for years. So you hope it is something that gets shored up in the coming days. We'll see what Profar's status is on Friday in New York. But like I said last night, I think based on what we saw last night, Jurickson going down, grabbing for his knee, you certainly thought it could be something serious, and at least right now it does seem like this is just sort of a lingering, long-term, recurring issue for Jurickson Profar, which in reality is probably a good thing based on what we saw last night. So that is the latest on Jurickson Profar. We'll see what Jurickson's status is. Who knows? Maybe even off the bench today. You never know. And certainly Friday's game in New York. And that's the latest injury update on Jurickson Profar. But again, Pro out of today's lineup. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at scores today from around the major leagues. We have a couple of games already in progress. Everything else coming up a little bit later on. A rain delay in the 7th inning right now in Minnesota. Twins ahead of the Rockies 10-5. Blue Jays ahead of the Brewers 1-0 in Milwaukee in the 5th inning. Other games yet to begin. Astros in San Francisco against the Giants at 12:45. Braves and the Orioles in Baltimore at 3:35. Nationals and the Tigers at 3:40 in Detroit. Cubs and the Rays in Tampa Bay at 3:50. Guardians and the Reds in Cincinnati at 4:10. Marlins and the Mets in New York at 4:10. Phillies and the Red Sox at 4:10 at Fenway. Pirates and the Cardinals in St. Louis at 4:45. Yankees and the Royals in Kansas City at 5:10. Angels in Arizona against the D-backs at 6:40. White Sox visit the Mariners at 6:40. And finally, in L.A., the Rangers and the Dodgers at 7:10. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Wednesday across the major leagues. Well, A's closer, right-hander Mason Miller, is somebody we haven't seen so far in this series, but he is somebody that has really impressed everybody across baseball, not just because of his success in the closing role. He has 12 saves this season, a 2.12 ERA in 23 appearances, but he does it with extreme velocity. When you look at the guys across baseball, the pitchers across baseball that throw the hardest, Mason Miller is by far and away the hardest, most consistent thrower in the majors right now. He averages nearly 101 miles per hour with his four-seam fastball. That's an average of 101. He's been really good. He's been electric. He's had clips all over social media with what he's done this season. And Mason Miller has an outstanding story, really an inspiring story. I caught up with Mason Miller yesterday here at Petco Park. Sam Levitt here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game between the Padres and the Oakland A's. And right now I'm joined by A's closer Mason Miller, a guy who has made a lot of headlines this year around baseball for his terrific work out of the bullpen and the velocity. So Mason, what's been the key for you this season as a whole?
Yeah, just being myself, really. You go make a change to the bullpen. I think guys might try and overcomplicate it. I think really it just simplifies it coming from starting. Just put your best stuff out there from first pitch. You're not saving anything. You're not waiting to see a guy a second time. So yeah, it's your best on his best right away.
What was the process of you going from starting to relieving? How did that work within the organization?
Yeah, after the year last year, came up, debuted, made a couple starts, then hit the IL for a good chunk of the year. So really it was just kind of centered around health. We're able to control kind of my workload a little better out of the bullpen. Shorter stints, but, closer together, which is kind of what we did towards the end of the year. It was a little more scripted than it is now. But, yeah, the transition's been seamless, and, obviously taking to it the way I have is super encouraging. So.
With the velocity, with the success you've had, do you enjoy being a closer and pitching out of the bullpen now?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, getting the ball in your hand at the crucial point in the game, that trying to bring it home for the guys, it's awesome. I started my whole life, so I was a little wary of the transition, just kind of not knowing. But, yeah, taking to it the way I have has been super encouraging for me. The support I've gotten from our coaches and teammates, just getting me in the game in those situations, having full confidence in me has been huge.
As far as the velocity part of it, I feel like I've personally seen a lot about you on social media, how hard you're throwing, the success you're having as well. Do you notice kind of what people are saying about you, how impressed they are with what you're doing right now?
Yeah, it's cool to see the clips, Yeah, it's cool to get that recognition. But, yeah, it's the key is staying focused on what you're doing, not getting too caught up in it. Not being too proud of, what you've done, but more focusing on, what lies ahead. And every day you've got guys across the diamond that are, the best of the best. So yeah, you got to bring it every day.
Joined by A's closer Mason Miller right now on the Padres radio network. Mason, I want to talk about your story because it's a really interesting one. You pitched at a Division III school, Waynesburg, for a number of years. You end up transferring to a D1 school, ultimately get drafted. Can you take us a little bit inside your story, the journey from D3 to now a guy who's been one of the best closers in baseball?
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I was kind of on that fringe D2, D3. Ended up deciding to go D3 to Waynesburg, mostly just to be on the field and playing my freshman year. Saw a lot of struggles my freshman and my sophomore year. End of my sophomore year, I get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and that's kind of when my story and the story to get to this point started. So I get diagnosed, get healthy, put on some good weight, and I have a breakout year my junior year at Waynesburg. 2020 was the COVID year, so I pitched like 2 games for Waynesburg, but got the extra year eligibility, transferred to Gardner-Webb, had a good year there, and got drafted in 21. So yeah, it's been a kind of crazy journey, thinking about how really not that long ago that was. To be seated here, competing at this level now is, super surreal for me, and I try to take that and appreciate it every single day.
You mentioned the medical diagnosis, type 1 diabetes, and it's a pretty fascinating story about how you even found out that you had it. I mean, can you tell us, number one, that story, and then just the process from there? How did your body and how did your pitching change?
Yeah, so that spring semester, it would have been spring of 2018. I lost a bunch of weight and kind of just exhibited all the, normal symptoms of diabetes. It was about 2 weeks till the end of the school year, so I was trying to get through the end of the year, take on my finals, all that. Was going to come home and do a blood test, kind of figure out what's going on. 'Cause, obviously I wasn't feeling the best, wasn't looking as healthy as I should. And I took a drug test for an internship I had that summer, and they tested my urine sample, and that's how they saw my sugar level was as high as it was. So they sent me to the ER, got the diagnosis there, spent 3 days in the hospital. So really it was pretty shocking, pretty quick. But yeah, you're back out in the world, living life pretty quickly. It's just a couple added things you consider, what you're eating, kind of the activity you're doing, and just how that affects your blood sugar levels.
How did your baseball life change? I mean, physically in the way you were throwing?
Yeah, I mean, I put probably 15, 20 pounds back on in that first week after I got diagnosed, so I came back pretty quick. And that was pretty much the weight that I had lost. And then, I had all the good habits of, working out, eating well, stuff like that kind of already ingrained in me just as an athlete. And a competitor, those are choices you make every day that affect your performance. So, having that, foundation laid already really helped. And then starting to see those results after, really years since high school of, trying to put weight on, trying to, take that next step in my career, just to see that success start to come and see those results show up. Super encouraging for me, and I was able to, kind of just have some more wind at my back as I attacked that summer, fall, and then coming into my junior year. Having the success I did was, really just a weight off my back, because I knew I had talent, I've had success in the past. So it was really just rolling out and showing it week in and week out. And doing that my junior year is just, encouraged me even more to keep working. And yeah, everything's kind of fallen into place. I've had a lot of great people that have supported me along the way, and, I'm really fortunate to be where I am.
Fascinating story, and really an encouraging story for a lot of people to see the way you've thrived. I'm just curious, as far as the velocity, can you take us sort of through the trajectory from Waynesburg to now, where you were back then and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, so when I came to Waynesburg, I was throwing about 88, 90. When I lost the weight, I lost some velo. I was probably working in the lower 80s at that point. So that was 2018. 2019, I was 92, 94 most of the year after I put the weight back on. And my senior year, my 2 starts, I think I had gotten up to 96. And then we had the COVID shutdown, so I really hit the weights pretty hard then, put on some more weight. Show up to Gardner-Webb, I was touching 99. They'll say I hit 100 there, but I never got to see it myself. So, after the draft that summer in the complex league in Arizona, it was the first time we had it tracked metrically at 100. So, yeah, it's just kind of been incrementally. You know, it really didn't come in a wave. You know, I kind of got the velo back that I lost, and then it's just been, you know, bumping up each year.
Mason, really appreciate the time. It's a lot of fun watching you pitch from afar, and certainly appreciate you telling us your story and how you got to where you are. It's fun watching those 100-plus mile-an-hour fastballs. Thanks so much for the time, and good luck the rest of this season.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sam.
Back here inside the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. Again, a big thank you to Mason Miller for joining us pregame today. Really, really cool, inspiring story, really, and everything he's dealt with from the diabetes diagnosis. And, man, he's really turned himself into one heck of a closer here in the major leagues. Let's give you our keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number 1, Michael King keeping hitters in the yard. We focused a lot early this season on Michael King's issues with the home run ball. In his first 7 outings of the season, King allowed 10 home runs in just 36 innings of work. But now in his last 7 starts, he's given up just 3 home runs in a span of 42 innings. He has not allowed a home run in either of his last 2 starts. King is doing a much better job at limiting the home runs, and no coincidence, his success has been more consistent. King needs to keep doing that here today against an A's offense that when they score, when they do, it usually comes on the home run. We've talked about this a few times during this series. More than 50% of the A's offense this season has come on the home run. And how have the A's scored all their runs in this series? You guessed it, all their runs have come via the home run, via the long ball. So if King can keep the A's in the yard today, I think a pretty good shot of a really nice outing today for Michael King. That's key number 1. Key number 2, Fernando against the lefty. Fernando Tatis Jr. has been terrific lately, a 17-game hitting streak, batting .400 in that span. But Fernando has not been great this season against left-handed pitching, batting just .224 with 1 home run and a .303 slugging percentage against lefties this year. Here today, Fernando facing a lefty starter in Hogan Harris. Can Fernando have some big moments today with the way he's swinging the bat right now? That's key number 2. And key number 3, keep on slugging. Padres offense has posted an .837 OPS in the month of June. That trails only 2 teams, the Dodgers and the Orioles, 2 very good teams. They've also struck out a major league low at 12.9% of plate appearances this month. So can the Padres keep on slugging in the final game of this homestand, pick up a series sweep against Oakland? We're going to find out, and that's a look at our keys to the game. When we come back here on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll talk a little bit more about the Padres trying to finally get that first series sweep of the year, and we have a deep dive into today's pitching matchup between Michael King and left-hander Hogan Harris. First pitch coming up at 1:10 here in downtown San Diego on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. I'm Sam Levitt on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Padres and the A's getting ready for the final game of this 3-game series. First pitch coming up at 1:10 here in downtown San Diego. Ballpark filling in little by little. Should be a fun, beautiful day of baseball here in America's finest city. We'll dive into today's pitching matchup between Michael King and Hogan Harris coming up in just a little bit. But first, let's tell you what to watch for in this series finale.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. Can the Padres finally deliver the final blow in a series? The Padres have yet another shot at their first sweep of the season here today. They are 0 for 5 in these opportunities so far this year. That's when they've had a chance to sweep either a 3-game or 4-game series. 0 for 5 when they've been in this spot. Can they finally sweep a series? You feel like they have a good opportunity to do it today against the A's with Michael King on the mound, but can they do it? It's been tough in these spots for this team. You'd like to see him do it here today, so that is what we are zeroed in on one way or another here today. Can the Padres find a way to sweep this series from Oakland? First pitch coming up at 1:10. Let's dive into our pitching matchup between Michael King and Hogan Harris.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Michael King on the mound for the Padres. The 29-year-old is 5-4, a 3.58 ERA in 14 outings this season, 78 innings. He struck out 83, walked 32. Last start over the weekend against Arizona, he was solid. 5 innings, no earned runs given up on 4 hits. He's been good as of late. Last 4 starts, a 1.90 ERA in 23-plus innings. The arsenal for Michael King, the 4-seam fastball, sinker, changeup, sweeper, and a slider. Hitters are batting just 161 against that very, very good changeup. Meanwhile, on the mound for the A's, left-hander Hogan Harris, the 27-year-old, 4 outings this season, 2 starts, a 2.21 ERA, 20-plus innings. He's allowed 15 hits, struck out 18 and walked 8. Last week against the Blue Jays, he was really good. 6 innings, no runs given up on 3 hits. In fact, in his last 3 outings, a grand total of 15 innings, a 0.60 ERA. A third-round pick by the A's from Louisiana Lafayette in 2018. Made his major league debut last year, had a 7.14 ERA in 63 total innings in the major league. So he's been much, much better in a small sample size this season. The arsenal for Harris, a fastball, he throws it a lot. 62% of the time with that 4-seamer. Also throws the curveball 21%. Also mixes in the changeup and the slider. Hitters batting this season 171 against that 4-seam fastball. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup here today. Michael King for San Diego and Hogan Harris on the mound for Oakland. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Let's set the table one more time for you as we get ready for this series finale in San Diego. Padres enter today with a record of 36-35. A's enter this one with a record of 26-43. Padres split a 4-game series with the Diamondbacks to begin this homestand. They now go for a 3-game sweep of the A's. It is already the Padres' first winning homestand of the season. Padres have won 4 of their last 5 after losing 5 in a row. A's, meanwhile, have lost 6 consecutive series. And like we said earlier, the Padres looking for their first series sweep of the year. Can they do it here today? We're going to find out with right-hander Michael King on the hill. When we come back, Jesse Ackler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.